The year was 1978, the year the first Halloween movie starring Jamie Lee Curtis was released.
All right, Shadow Dancing by Andy Gibb was a top song.
Ben & Jerry's opened its first ice cream shop.
And in October of 1978, this is what we were watching on the news then.
We begin with a shooting in the Lower East Side where a gunman brazenly walked into a coffee shop and opened fire.
One New York cop put it very bluntly. What happened early this morning on the Lower East Side must have been the work of a psycho. A man walked into a coffee shop and started shooting, and when it was all over, minutes later, one man was critically wounded. Two others, including the gunman, were dead, and Steve Bauman has the story.
There were several people inside the coffee shop on 2nd Avenue and East 11th Street at 3 this morning. 25-year-old Jose Pina appeared at the door, cursed at no one in particular, then fired several pistol shots over the counter. No one was hurt. 2 bullets lodged in the wall. He then left and walked down 2nd Avenue 1 block to the corner of East 10th Street. There, a still unidentified man was walking his dog. Without saying a word, Pina shot him in the head. The man died instantly. The gunman then tried hailing a cab, but the driver apparently spotted the gun and sped off. A second driver was not so lucky. John Coble stopped his cab. Pina shot him too. A neighborhood resident had called police, and officers Steve Meisner and Vic Kamatsky arrived moments after Pina walked away from his second victim, who remains in critical condition.
Man came off the sidewalk, came in at us, fired at us, and we...
You were out of the car at the time?
No, we were still in the car. We never had a chance to get out of the car. And he fired at us, and we fired back at him.
What was his condition when he was firing at you, or when you first spotted him?
He was yelling. He was gonna. He killed the. I killed him. I'm gonna kill you. And when we looked to the right, we saw a man with his appeared to have a head wound, and he kept coming. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. And he fired at us.
Right. How many shots did he pick at you?
I don't know.
And how many shots did you fire?
One.
And you?
I fired 6.
It was your shots that hit him, you believe?
We both hit the perpetrator.
Pina lived around the corner from where he began his deadly shooting spree. This area has one of the highest crime rates in the city, and Pina was known here as one of the many drug dealers and petty thieves with a lengthy police record. But he was not known to be violent and had no history of mental disorder. It was in this same precinct, the 9th, that 2 teams of police officers were gunned down in the past few years. Officers Meisner and Kametsky say they were just lucky they were able to return the fire. The only hint of a reason for Pina's actions are rumors in the neighborhood that he'd been having continuing fights with his own family and that they had thrown him out of the house. This afternoon, his brother and sisters stood across from the precinct house, crying and attempting to comfort each other. This is Steve Bauman, Channel 5 News.
Today, it's video games and social media that consumes a lot of kids' time. Back in 1978, it was pinball, and some parents were concerned that playing pinball was an unhealthy addiction.
In Oyster Bay, Long Island, apparently a lot of student money is being spent on a different type of education. Oyster Bay is not the only town in America beset by pinball fever, but Barry Cunningham reports it's one of the first to do something about it.
Now, I know all you folks out there are the right kind of parents, and I want to be perfectly frank. We've got trouble right here in Oyster Bay, my friends. Trouble with a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pinball.
Pinball parents unite. You have nothing to lose but your kids' lunch money. That was the rallying cry at an Oyster Bay town board meeting today, considering a proposal that would ban pinball machines in pizza parlors, snack shops, and other teen hangouts after January 1st. The law makes an exception of licensed game rooms, such as this one in the Mid-Island Shopping Mall in Hicksville.
You spend $10 a day on pinball machines.
Yeah.
Has this sort of taken over your life?
Yeah, I guess so.
What do you get out of it?
Fun.
What's
action out of it?
Are you an addict or a pinball addict, or how did you get hooked on pinballs?
I don't know. It was just there. Tried it. That was it.
It's like a fever. If you come in here, you keep spending money. Once you start, you don't want to stop.
How much do you spend?
A couple of bucks a week.
What do your parents think of that?
They don't know.
A pinball prohibition is supported by parents complaining that pinball flippers are turning penny arcades into $10 a day dens of iniquity, encouraging pinball addiction, beer guzzling, and nicotine stains on little Billy's index finger.
Merchants have come to us and indicated youngsters have gone into different locations, dropped off debris, have become unruly, have left beer cans about, have sometimes been involved in not proper supervision, as I've indicated to you.
Aren't those the sort of things that they'd be doing with or without pinball machines?
Well, I think one of the things that's happened is we've ended up with a device or a mechanism with some of these arcades where there has not been proper supervision for young people to congregate.
Until the anti-pinball law takes effect, Oyster Bay parents, be on guard. When your little boy comes home tonight, be on guard for the telltale signs of corruption. Are certain new words creeping into his vocabulary? Words like tilt and break shot. Are his fingers damp and clammy? Idle hands are the devil's playground. And if the town of Oyster Bay is to be believed, pinball is the road to perdition. This is Barry Cunningham, Channel 5 News.
In 1978, New York City was on the brink of a financial crisis.
New York Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan says that if New York City doesn't tighten its belt and straighten out its welfare mess, the Big Apple could be in for a generation of financial trouble. And he said City Hall will not be able to compete with the rest of the country unless it brings down the cost of running local government.
Until you can do business in this city for a cost not radically different from other parts of the country, this city is going to be in trouble, and so is Nassau and Suffolk and Westchester, which are part of the...
Senator, this sounds more like... And this evening, a state audit revealed that New York City's projected budget deficits for 1980 to 1982 could have been underestimated by as much as $190 million. Special Deputy Controller Sidney Schwartz says that for those years, the city will experience a budget gap of well over $1 billion. Schwartz says the understatements came about because the city failed to take into account the large cost of living increases given to its employees in new contracts.
Also in 1978, we met the top Masters runner at the time as he prepared for the New York City Marathon.
Last night, young John Miller offered us a profile of Bill Rogers, the winner of last year's New York City Marathon. This year's competition, set for Sunday morning, may draw as many as 12,000 runners, and Bob O'Brien is one of several of our staff who intend to start in that race. And tonight, Bob focuses on one of the best he'll be competing against.
Dr. Carl Friedrich Mueller, senior research chemist at the Ciba-Geigy Chemical Corporation in Ardsley, New York. Now in charge of a polymer synthesis lab experimenting with controlled diffusion substances, such as the minute plastic membranes that are used in timed-release drugs. 5 years ago, at age 37, Fritz Mueller was a 170-pound amateur birdwatcher who used to run 5 miles down the beach in the Hamptons once each year. His wife says he used to come back from that run purple, looking as if he were going to expire. When Mueller ran his first race, a 6-miler in Central Park in the summer of '73, he collapsed a quarter-mile short of the finish line. He woke up in Lenox Hill Hospital, a victim of heat stroke. Quite an amazing history for the man who is now the top Masters runner in the United States. The Masters class is for those over 40. Despite his 42 years, Fritz Mueller handily beat back the challenge of 24-year-old Justin Gubbins in May of this year to win the grueling Yonkers Marathon. He returned to his native Germany in June to win the Berlin Marathon. Fritz hopes to be the very first New Yorker of any age to cross the finish line in this weekend's New York City Marathon.
In a marathon race or any long race, the key to it is to find a rhythm at which you just sort of roll along. Of course, at the end it becomes less of a rolling along, but of just hanging in there.
On October 1st, before the start of a 12.5-mile race in Central Park, Fritz and several other runners held a protest rally aimed at this man, Parks Commissioner Gordon Davis. They want Davis to keep the park closed to motorists all through the week. At the end of this summer, the city reopened the park to cars, except on weekends and from 7 to 9:30 weekday evenings. When we tracked Fritz on a recent run through the park, it was easy to see why he's concerned.
Unfortunately, the park, it doesn't really serve the purpose very well anymore. It was designed for recreation and for the people of New York to use it for recreation. But its primary function now, at least during the week, is to serve as a throughway and to make it convenient for drivers to get back and forth to work. I think this is, at this time, absolutely absurd to have that many cars competing with people on foot for the little open space which is left in New York.
Just today, Parks Commissioner Davis told me he did not think the city would contemplate a year-round closing of the park to motorists this year. Davis says it would have to be done in stages, but he is seriously considering it. Until then, Fritz and other park runners must tread carefully, very carefully. Bob O'Brien, Channel 5 News.
And that was the news then.